Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of A Gray Barn Rising. I'm so glad you could be here this evening. I'm going to read the poetry this evening of the great Chilean poet Pablo Neruda, and his years of living were 1904 to 1973. I'm probably not going to say a whole lot about Pablo Neruda because he's one of the most famous poets in the world. And there's certainly a lot of information about him out and about, but I would love to read some of his work this evening for you. I want to begin by reading a poem from Neruda and Vallejo's Selected Poems, edited by Robert Bly. And this is a Robert Bly translation as well, this first poem. And this is that I'm going to read. And this first poem is from Neruda's great book, Residence on Earth. And it's titled Walking Around. Bootsy, by the way, is not boycotting Neruda. She loves Neruda, I can guarantee that. It's just a little warm, and sometimes she takes to the floor in this kind of heat. Walking around. It so happens I am sick of being a man. And it happens that I walk into tailor shops and movie houses, dried up, waterproof, like a swan made of felt, steering my way in a water of wombs and ashes. The smell of barber shops makes me break into hoarse sobs. The only thing I want is to lie still like stones or wool. The only thing I want is to see no more stores, no gardens, no more goods, no spectacles, no elevators. It so happens I am sick of my feet and my nails and my hair and my shadow. It so happens I am sick of being a man. Still, it would be marvelous to terrify a law clerk with a cut lily, or kill a nun with a blow on the ear. It would be great to go through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until I died of the cold. I don't want to go on being a root in the dark, insecure, stretched out, shivering with sleep, going on down into the moist guts of the earth, taking in and thinking, eating every day. I don't want so much misery. I don't want to go on as a root in a tomb, alone under the ground, a warehouse with corpses, half frozen, dying of grief. That's why Monday, when it sees me coming with my convict face, blazes up like gasoline, and it howls on its way like a wounded wheel, and leaves tracks full of warm blood leading toward the night. And it pushes me into certain corners, into some moist houses, into hospitals where the bones fly out the window, into shoe shops that smell like vinegar, and certain streets hideous as cracks in the skin. There are sulfur-colored birds and hideous intestines hanging over the doors of houses that I hate. And there are false teeth forgotten in a coffee pot. There are mirrors that ought to have wept from shame and terror. There are umbrellas everywhere, and venoms and umbilical cords. I stroll along serenely with my eyes, my shoes, my rage, forgetting everything. I walk by, going through office buildings and orthopedic shops and courtyards with washing hanging from the line, underwear, towels, and shirts from which slow, dirty tears are falling. There's an awful lot of animal energy in Residence on Earth, and it certainly comes through in this next poem I want to read, also from Residence on Earth, entitled Some Beasts. And this is a James Wright translation. some beasts. It was the twilight of the iguana. From the rainbow arch of the battlements, his long tongue like a lance sank down in the green leaves, and a swarm of ants, monks with feet chanting, crawled off into the jungle. The guanaco, thin as oxygen in the wide peaks of cloud, went along wearing his shoes of gold, while the llama opened his honest eyes on the breakable neatness of a world full of dew. The monkeys braided a sexual thread that went on and on along the shores of the dawn, demolishing walls of pollen and startling the butterflies of muso into flying violets. It was the night of the alligators, the pure night, crawling with snouts emerging from ooze, and out of the sleepy marshes the confused noise of scaly plates returned to the ground where they began. The jaguar brushed the leaves with a luminous absence. The puma runs through the branches like a forest fire, while the jungle's drunken eyes burn from inside him. The badgers scratch the river's feet, scenting the nest whose throbbing delicacy they attack with red teeth. And deep in the huge waters, the enormous anaconda lies like the circle around the earth, covered with ceremonies of mud, devouring, religious. And I want to close this evening's reading of Pablo Neruda with a poem from another book, Pablo Neruda's 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair. This particular translation is by W.S. Merwin. And I would like to read poem 20, which is called Tonight I Can Write. I still remember the very first time I heard this poem. My dear friend John Bradley read this poem to me, and it has stayed with me over 30 years. This is the last poem of the love poems before the Song of Despair comes. Tonight I can write. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not have loved her great, still eyes? Tonight I can write the saddest lines. To think that I do not have her. To feel that I have lost her. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her. And the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my life could not keep her? What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry and she is not with me. This is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. The same night whitening the same trees. We of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain, but how I loved her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. Another's, she will be another's, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. That's from 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair by Pablo Neruda. That was a translation by W.S. Merwin. Pablo Neruda is such a great poet, a monumental poet. You heard in the first two poems that I read this evening, incredible surrealism in which he accesses different parts of his psyche, particularly the animal part of his psyche. And then you heard, I hope, in the final poem that I read this evening, a poem of equal passion and emotion, but the imagery is much different in that poem. It doesn't move in the same surrealist ways. Neruda's work is vast. Many of the viewers of this program may, for example, know his elemental odes. And if you don't, I encourage you, I implore you, go seek out the elemental odes of Pablo Neruda, where he writes Ode to the Clothes, or Ode to My Socks, or Ode to the Lemon, Ode to the Watermelon. These poems look at particular objects and go into them with great attention and incredible imaginative reach. So that's a few of the poems of Pablo Neruda. I really hope that you seek his work out. I imagine many of you have already read Neruda, and if it's been a while and you've laid off of Pablo Neruda and you're already a reader of Neruda, I hope you return to Neruda with increased vigor, as his work is so inspiring and so deeply rooted in incredible emotional consciousness. Thanks for joining.